Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom for the PlayStation 2, Nintendo GameCube, and Xbox specific consoles. So, last time we have managed to start things up with Rock Bottom, and we managed to gather quite a few collectibles, like, you know, more golden spatulas, more shiny objects to progress, and especially noticeable for more Patrick socks. So today, we're about to be continuing things on for Rock Bottom, and hopefully we'll try to get ourselves the rest of the final 4 golden spatulas before we move on to the next world, assuming if we're able to actually get enough time. But for right now though, let's go and continue.
Plankton, you best not be stirring up no trouble.
Nonsense! I only want to help! Help crush you all under my rise to power.
What was that?
Nothing! Say, see those lasers there?
You mean them things that look like fancy washing machines?
To your puny brain, I suppose. You'll need to turn on each one of those in order to cross the last part of the Trench of Advanced Darkness.
This better not be some kind of trick, varmint.
Okay, so for this objective here is the fact that we have to acquire Sandy in order to do with this mission. Now is the fact that, well, first of all, let's go ahead and grab this next Patrick sock from the bottom. So that way we can actually just, well, go down there, and then eventually we'll get back up there by simply able to utilize with that particular bungee jump little thing here. So either way, yeah, today's day is the forms of the 15th of June today, in this case in 2020, so we're naturally on the halfway point in June already, and also same applies to about the fact that we're actually getting really close towards the halfway point in terms of 2020 itself, even though despite the fact that it's gotten rough around the edges, as you probably already guys should know. And as a matter of fact though, it's the fact that we were expecting to see some exciting moments here and there, but there's not much else we can able to say about this. Well, apart from the fact that, oh, seriously? I really hate those explosions always count by the forms of giving me a knockback as well. Ah, jeez, what the heck is it? What the heck is this, by the way? Anyway, though, yeah, anyway, speaking of which, actually, it's the fact that we've only got about 8 days left until the SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom remake will be releasing until about 8 days left, or somewhat lesser than that, just because depending on the time zone, depending on what country you lived in, so as a result, it really depending on the forms of different countries worth noting for. Specifically, in the United Kingdom, but then we've got about lesser than 8 days, and I think the American version does manage to have like specifically 8 days left or something like that. I'm not exactly sure because I haven't really looked upon that much of time zones recently, so as a result, I just want to classify that right away. So I'm still looking forward to trying out the remake version of this game, which I'm super excited about. Specifically, I can to replay the game again, but this time around in gorgeous HD, as well as from that, experiencing some cutouts ever since during the forms of it or cut content than the likes of the original version does have. So either way, and excuse me, unfortunately, because I accidentally just got myself my, well, as you no doubt by now, I got myself my knockback, probably because of that stupid enemy just over there in the distance, which I'll talk more about why I hate that enemy so much, assuming if we're able to close towards the end of this particular Let's Play, as a matter of fact. So, but either way though, there's not much else to talk about, so I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this also, and by the way, those switches that you've active with these little lasers and stuff, these will be saved to progress, by the way, so good thing if you manage to fell off or something, then you can to continue your progress while the switch activation, or, well, specifically the active switch, we're able to actually still save your progress, so that way you can to actually just move on to the next laser and stuff like that. I suppose we need to activate 3 lasers, and then you would be able to accomplish this mission, so self-explanatory for the most part, but then again, you have to use Sandy the whole time for the sake of this mission, so that way you can to actually use her lasso to go all the way to this next point, And by the way, we have actually obtained the 6th and the final picture frame, so that way we can able to now deliver it back to Mrs. Puff, so that way we can able to get ourselves, hopefully, the next golden spatula. And also, we've now able to progress to this next point right here. And we're almost at the exit point in Journey Forms of that particular section in Rock Bottom. So, pretty cool stuff, especially noticeable how the fact that despite we keep on getting knockbacks by the forms of explosions, and as well as that, keep on getting knocked back by that very irritating enemy, which I'll talk more about him whenever we get towards the end of the actual Let's Play, but let's not get ahead of ourselves for this point.
Nothing a little southern elbow grease can't handle.
Alright, so let's go ahead and nab the actual golden spatula, and seems to be more specifically, we've got 36 of these golden spatulas so far. So, yeah, we still get some more progressioning for the sake of time, but either way though, let's see what else is on here. I think we've only got about 3 more missions left, so hopefully we would be able to actually just to collect the last 3 golden spatulas from there, and we can able to continue our progression for the sake of time. So anyway, speaking of other things I'd like to say about this is the fact that recently this game now actually listed some of those trophies / achievements for the sake of the forms of the remake of this game, specifically in the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 version specifically. And I'm presuming also PC Steam version of this as well, that it does manage to list some of those achievements / trophies as a matter of fact. And I think the amount of trophies / achievements they actually got, I think there are about 33 of them, which is a little bit lesser compared to the forms of how it does it on any other PS4 games that we actually got, including digital download ones as well. So at least I'll probably should able to point it out right away. So even then though, that as I said before, that the remake of this game will able to actually get, well, 33 of those trophies has been revealed. So I think some of them, or the majority of them I should say, might be actually be the easiest in terms of the forms of the actual trophies listed they actually listed so far. I'm guessing it's more likely because if I able to actually 100% everything before the game, well, I don't know if I can able to 100% everything in this game just yet, which I'll explain more details about this, and so whenever we get on to the majority of the summer season. So as a result of that kinds of stuff though, I should probably talk on that later. So as a result, really looking forward to able to actually just to get some even more trophies if I get the PlayStation 4 version, as I said this countless amount of times in the past. So, but either way though, that's all I can really say about this for this point here. So, anyways, as you can see right here, I managed to able to get the another golden spatula, almost right near to the exit section. Although, seemingly to say, is the fact that if you use Sandy on this part, it makes the entire portion like this really easy. Whilst alternatively, you can also just manage to switch over to SpongeBob, so just in case you can able to actually sneak bypass these little sleepy robots, as you can see here. And then ultimately speaking, if you do manage to able to deal with that stuff, including a duplication machines, then you should probably able to actually make your way to the golden spatula alternatively. So there's so many possibilities you can able to get the golden spatulas with, whilst there are some exceptions, mind you, just because you have to require certain characters in order to able to actually access to some of those golden spatulas, if you probably guys should know. Just because, you know, similar to Super Mario 64 DS, even though that was before when Super Mario 64 DS Master came out on the Nintendo DS in 2004, they can able to only use specific characters in certain missions, like, you know, for instance, in, well, Dire Docks, or I think it's Dire Docks, that you use Luigi for the Vanish mission, and, well, Wario for the Switch Stars, so you get the idea.
Hey, Mr. Krabs, what are you doing?
Well, I could have sworn me eyes saw a golden spatula here a minute ago, but I think it fell down this slide.
Down the slide? It might have broken its leg. I've got to save it.
Go, boy, go! Save that poor spatula!
So in this next mission right here is the fact that we need to activate that switch, and basically we need to make our way down towards the slide, and that way we should able to get ourselves a golden spatula from there. So yeah, it's to be expected for the most part though when it comes to, really? Okay, never mind. Because nonetheless though, I could able to actually still able to grab several of those shiny objects, as you can see here. So, but either way though, it doesn't really matter to me though if I keep on getting hit a lot. So, but then again, if you fell off onto the particular slide segments, although thankfully this particular slide section like this one does manage to offer us some guardrails, so that way you don't able to fall off for the actual point in time. But it's unlikely in the future slide sections that it will able to actually feel incredibly lacking with guardrails, so as a result it makes things a little bit challenging for you. So either way though, now let's head back onto this final mission right here for Rock Bottom, and we should able to get the final golden spatula in this world. So yeah.
Last piece of artwork accounted for, Mrs. Puff. I left no strange, glowing stone unturned.
Well now, nice work, SpongeBob. The museum will finally be able to reopen, and here's your reward.
And there we go, folks. We actually got all of the golden spatulas in Rock Bottom. And before we're able to actually leave this world in particular, there was that one particular reference that you might able to be familiar with. If you go to this little, the actual defending machine, that way you can able to see that familiar reference ever since in Season 1 in the actual episode of Rock Bottom, where basically when SpongeBob was like super hungry and stuff like that, whenever he spotted the actual candy machine, or the vending candy machine, and then as a result, whenever he thinks he was about to be going back onto the bus, but seems that the actual bus itself quickly just managed to leave, and as a result, SpongeBob has to be like, have to go for a lot of trial and error to be able to actually get into like not only the vending machine, but also the actual bus most of the time. Every time he's the only one, he's still pretty much going to be stuck in Rock Bottom in the actual episode, because unlike Patrick, that, you know how Patrick just managed to able to get into the actual bus itself immediately. So as a result for that kind of stuff though, I just want to point it out for that specifically for that reference over there, if you've probably already seen the actual episode before, such as myself as a kid anyway. So yeah, something's worth to point it out, and I suppose that we still need to able to be finding some more of those Patrick socks, I'm presuming. So yeah, we still need to able to continue hunt for those.
Nice job, SpongeBob. That was some fancy sliding.
Thanks. I guess all that pant wax I bought is finally paid off.
Alright, so we ended up in here though, so just in case if we're able to double check on certain areas in journey forms within the actual Rock Bottom itself. So we'll go back onto the slide segment, and that way we should be able to actually get into the forms of that current progressioning in terms of likely, I do apologize with the actual the belchiness at this point, guys, because once again, since I'm the fastest thing alive, this means I once again eat so many chili dogs, which I have to say for this point, I have to be honest for this point right here. So anyway though, a few things I want to explain about this, potentially speaking, is the fact that, well, recently, about the fact that I was originally trying to explain something about the fact that with the My Little Pony Pony Life TV series by this point. However, I will say I might able to actually discuss more onto that whenever we get onto the forms of, specifically on this Wednesday in particular, in this case, in Wednesday the 17th of June. Because of that though, there are a few things I want to explain, apart from the fact that I've already mentioned about the forms of, they've now finally included the trophies / the achievements list in terms of this particular remake, which I'm very grateful for. And especially noticeable how the fact that, well, there are some good things here and there, and some of them are bad news. Like, the good news is the fact that, well, recently the Pokemon Sword and Shield gets its new news updates or anything like that, in terms of, well, it already did happen during the forms of within like 13 days ago. But I'm probably not going to discuss on that just yet, until whenever we get on to the later parts throughout the whole thing. And I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this too, that, yeah, we get the idea, Bubble Buddy. So even then, we can at least expect that. Sadly though, there are some bad news we're able to actually decide to discuss upon. First of all, we were expecting to able to actually discuss upon PlayStation 5 kind of stuff. Unfortunately though, that particular PlayStation 5 event will be delayed, which it's very understandable, which I at least able to actually expect that, because of how the fact that they need some more time to work with, plus it might be a little bit too early to able to predict for that kind of stuff, Although I don't think they're actually going to be mentioning about the coronavirus situation or something like that because of that. But I really don't know if I was 100% guaranteeing specifically for that precise moment. So, yeah, forgive me if I'm able to actually not clearly know what the actual descriptions are. So, but even then I was wanting to talk about that for a little bit. So, even then though, chances are though, they need to get a little bit of time before they're able to actually get onto that specific event. So, yeah, I just want to classify that. So, at least I expect for anything for that move. So, anyway, this particular bridge is kind of pointless because we've already done every single mission since Junior forms have been, well, specifically rock bottom. We're still missing, you know, one last sock left, which I'm presuming that's what that's been going for. But if we don't look hard enough, then much like in the previous worlds, I might eventually come back into this eventually. So, but either way, though, I wasn't able to actually consider mentioning that. So, now I suppose another thing that's also a terrible news, and that was the fact that, well, during about 13 days ago, is the fact that recently that Nintendo New York building does manage to able to got themselves, well, it's to do with the forms of the coronavirus thing, so at least even then we could expect this much. Well, I don't know about you, but even then I really have fake descriptions when it comes to forms of likely mentioning certain parts throughout. But at least we have some good other things worth talking about, and that was the fact that Sega themselves are about to be playing some new stuff or something like that. Again, I must admit though for this point, guys, I do apologize for the actual, the commentary itself goes a little bit too... I wouldn't say bare bones, but it's just that, well, there's not much else good news about it. Well, apart from that one particular bad news I want to mention, is that recently Nintendo New York window has been broken due to the forms of amid protests in America. Although I'll talk more about it later, because for now, let's entering Sandy's tree dome.
Sandy, your tree dome is leaking!
Them there robots busted up the glass, SpongeBob. I got a treehouse chock full of robots and it's all your fault, so get in there and clean up your mess.
Alright, so once again, we need to dish out as many of those robots once again, except now we have 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The only reason being for that, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm pretty sure that you have to able to beat those robots in a certain amount of time. And also, as you can see on screen, that since that SpongeBob doesn't seem to have a water helmet or anything like that, this is probably due to because this particular facial SpongeBob, as you can see right there, is actually a reference to the forms of back in Season 1 with T at the Tree Dome, where basically SpongeBob was actually far lacking with water when it comes to entering in a tree dome. And as a matter of fact, for that kinds of stuff though, it might able to reuse that again until likely in the next episode, which is Squirrel Jokes. I'm not exactly sure what particular season that was from, but let me know in the comments below. But yeah, look at him right there, far lacking with well, water helmets, as you can see right there. But it's still likely in the future though that he will able to use that more often from that.
Alrighty then, that's much better. I suppose you'll be needing this more than me.
And after when you deal out with even more robots, as you can see, then obviously you get yourselves another golden spatula. So we now got 40 of those golden spatulas right now. So relatively speaking, that we almost at the halfway point in terms of 100%ing the actual full game itself. So now, since we are basically done at Sandy's Tree Dome, there's not much we can do apart from that. So even then, now we actually become normal SpongeBob, because he's the only one who can able to breathe underwater, unlike Sandy, ever since in the episode called Pressure, that she's not very good at able to actually live underwater, assuming she's able to use that particular helmet or suit or something.
Wow! Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy! My heroes! Hit me with a water ball! Hit me, hit me, hit me!
We don't do that stuff anymore, kid. We're retired.
Is that the TV repairman?
No, it's that excited sponge kid again.
Oh, are you sure he can't fix the TV?
Mermaid Man, 'twould be my greatest honor to fix your television.
Goody!
Hey, sponge kid, you really want to help out?
Oh boy, would I!
Okay then, but lighten up a bit on the enthusiasm, huh? You're making my bowels act up. we've got a little problem with some robots down in the Mermaliar. Are you sure you're up to this task?
Absolutely, Barnacle Boy.
Well, go over to the couch to access the Mermaliar. We'll meet you down there.
Is it pudding night yet?
This is a Bikini Bottom news update. We're getting unconfirmed reports that the robot menace is emanating from the chum bucket. The proprietor, Plankton, has released the following statement. Hear me now! I'll crush you all beneath my... And now back to your regular programming. Retirement Home Girls Gone Wild.
Alright, so we ended up in the forms of that particular seashore kind of daycare center or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how do I explain this. But basically, as you can see right there, we managed to hit the back of the TV. And then if you do that, then you get yourselves another Patrick Song. And the reason why we actually ended up in here, if you're probably wondering, well, we actually come across into Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, as you can see right there. Obviously, those two made their first appearance since, well, the episode in, you know, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy since in Season 1. So relatively speaking, there's not much else we can say from here. And because the reason why we're entering in that particular building, as long as the forms of that particular... Well, if you talk to Mermaid Man, well, basically, this will actually access to this next world, which appears to be Mermaliar, which is very iconic for those of you who have ever seen Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episodes. Specifically, I would say since episode 2, or in this case, the Mermaid Man... I'll talk more on that later.
Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Ah!
You shouldn't sneak up on Mermaid Man like that. His heart's not so good. Come to think of it, nothing on him is that good anymore.
Sorry, Mermaid Man. It's just that I'm always so excited to see you two. Standing in your awesome presence gives me the chills of justice. See? I've got goosebumps on my goosebumps on my goosebumps on my goosebumps on my...
All right, kid, knock it off. Just tell us what you want.
Well, I really want a new pair of sunglasses. Patrick sat on my old ones.
That's not what I meant.
Actually, it's a good thing you showed up, young sponge of goodness.
It is?
It is?
Yes! A bunch of evil robots have taken over the Mermaliar security system. It's up to you to shut it down and stop them!
Well, why him? We're perfectly capable superheroes.
Because it's Thursday and we have a whole bunch of doctor's appointments.
Ah, fish sticks. I forgot.
Go talk to the Mermaliar computer in the next room. She'll tell you what to do.
I accept this awesome responsibility, Mermaid Man. You won't be disappointed. Shamed maybe, but not disappointed.
To the doctor's office! Away!
And I think for the sake of this world, unlike in Rock Bottom, I'm pretty sure you can only select SpongeBob and Patrick because, well, obviously those two has become a huge fan of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy throughout the years, so I would expect it able to make it a little bit more obvious answer. So either way, and as you can see, we actually come across into a lot of hazards, including disco floors, which I'll explain more about this until in any second. Well, looks like we come across into those new types of enemies known as the Earths right here. Now, normally, as what the game tells you, is the fact that you can only deal the damage on him on the Bubble Ball ability, but you can also do other alternatives as well. Specifically, you can either just manage to walk up there and then just try to deal the amount of damage on him, or you can able to actually just, well, to be more specifically, just trying to able to attack him straight away. But unfortunately, I once again got knockback, by the way. So, but luckily though, we got a checkpoint right there from the get-go, so that way you would be able to actually just, well, continue where you left off, basically. So, as far as Mermaliar, as far as this world goes, I think this might actually be one of the, I'm not exactly sure how to explain this for this point just yet, but basically for the sake of this world, it's gonna be filled to the brim with a lot of puzzles around here, which I'll talk more about it whenever we get onto the future parts throughout. So anyways, let's go ahead and use the bubble ball ability, so that way we can able to hit these little signs right here, so that way we can able to actually turn those little bridge around in the different spots throughout in certain locations, as you see there. So, but even then though, we need to use that more often, so that way we can able to progress. So, I think it just stops all the way from here, but before we continue things on for this point right here, we need to go ahead and get some fun interaction to that bungee jump segment, and from here, we only here just for the sake of obtaining Patrick's sock, basically. Unlike in any other world in this game, this world usually has lesser amounts of those Patrick socks, which that could be also the same applies for one of the next few worlds that we're about to be entering into at some point in the future, because from now on though, we need to mainly focusing on this world as it is. So, anyways, let's go ahead and set this bridge all the way from here, and then hopefully we'll eventually go ahead and, in addition to able to activating that checkpoint, we can also just able to actually activate a couple of switches between one over there and another one directly from the center, as you see here. Oh, that's pretty cool. We got ourselves the invincible, well, I would say mobile, I don't know how do you call that. It has been such a long time since I've actually seen a TV series, basically. It's like invisible boatmobile. I think that's what the actual thing itself is representing for. So, but even then though, that turns everything invincible, basically. So even then, it's pretty cool, but you can't able to drive that. It's only for likely cosmetic references or something. So, pretty cool though. And right from the start though, we actually got a golden spatula once we make our way to the actual Mermaliar main chamber, as you can see right here. So even then we can able to continue the rest of that world.
The Mermaliar, secret fortress of the wrinkly superheroes Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Squidward, am I happy to see you? And not just the kind of happy you feel in the front of your knees, but the kind of happy you feel in the back of your elbow. Oh, you'll never believe what's been happening.
Yeah, I've already been briefed by the geriatric duo. Those two old coots sent me in to get updated with the Mermaliar computer. But since you're here now, I'll let you do it. It's right over there. Oh, look at this place. I mean, please. Would it kill them to lay down a few throw rugs? And all this wasted space? How did those two old fogies make all this?
Oh, that's easy. In episode 27, the Mermaliar is invaded by the digging monsters of Bermuda, and they...
Never mind!
So now we ended up on the main chamber, as you can see right there, and basically this is what the bubble ball comes into play, specifically for this world. And by the way, you have to use that ability a lot for the sake of the forms of certain missions, certain attributes, and all the other jazz, which basically because of how the fact that you need to do that a lot. Even for you, if you really want to activate a lot of switches, as you can see right there, well, despite the fact that I've somehow managed to able to let the bubble ball just managed to clip right through it, by the way, which is kind of lucky considering how the fact that despite, that enemy again. I always hate these enemies sometimes, especially how a pain these enemies are in this game. Especially noticeable how the fact that it's bad enough that you have to deal with the forms of, well, these guys do manage to respawn most of the time, but also because it just gives me a lot of knockback due to that, specifically that particular rocket missile thing. Which is a bit of annoying and irritating to say the least, but still. And I deserve to get a knockback, so yeah, thanks a lot. Anyway, but at least they actually just managed to respawn right onto that particular checkpoint is, so yeah, that's all I can really think about it. So even then, I'm probably not gonna able to complete this world for this video, but definitely in the next video for sure. During at some point in Journey Forms of on Wednesday for sure. So either way though, yeah, let's just go ahead and just like, I'm pretty sure we need to climb, we'll jump from there. So we can at least we can able to actually just to see if what we're gonna do here. Unfortunately, there's nothing else we can do in this area, so we can at least able to turn back and then eventually trying to able to figure out how we're supposed to able to actually activate those walls. You're probably wondering. well, turns out in certain sections, well, we need to activate those, both the left and right walls until whenever we get ourselves into, well, I would say not only the continuation of that particular progressioning in terms of Mermaid Lair, but it's also the fact that we might able to come across into eventually, well, I won't discuss on that until at some point on Wednesday for surely, so, but either way though, we're able to discuss on that whenever we get into that, so. Yeah, as I was saying, when it comes to that particular bad news in terms of the forms of Nintendo New York, as far as to that particular point, one of the windows has got smashed due to the forms of pure chaos during in America, which I could assuming is probably because of how the fact that we have ourselves some sort of like a, well, protest situations or something like that. I'm not exactly sure of how to explain this, but because of that, though, I have nothing else to say, because I felt very, very sorry in terms of the forms of that particular thing itself, I suppose. Mainly with the forms of the actual the store itself, which might be seems a little bit more obvious answer, but either way though, I just want to point it out. So hopefully it'll get mended by the time for the forms of. I'm pretty sure it will do for the sake of clarity. So anyways, in this particular next portion, as you can see right there, we have to make sure we need to activate all of these switches, by the way, by simply only utilize with the watermelon, by the way, in order to able to activate it. So I think we need to activate for about 3 switches at piece. So, and when you get the hang of it though, it might not be so bad. It's just that, well, again, this is a semi-blind playthrough, as you can tell, because of how the fact that I have no idea what I'm doing. But at least we can able to go for this particular point, even though some people find this part to be pretty tricky and difficult, because you have to keep a rely on balancing and stuff like that, which is pretty obvious for standard stuff.
I got a job for somebody who can throw things.
Leave it to us. I'm great at throwing things.
All you have to do is pick up a throw fruit and throw it into each of those funnel machines.
Throw fruit?
No, throw the throw fruit.
Throw the tofu.
You might want to be quick about it. I tend to explode. I mean, they tend to explode.
Yeah, I already know that, Mermaid Man. That's the only objective I'm still currently doing. So, anyway, I suppose aside from all that stuff, though, that's as far as I can say in terms of news, updates, or anything like that. What I'd like to mention about the forms of my first impressions on, you know, My Little Pony Life, Slice of Life episodes or something like that. But then again, I'll talk more about it whenever we get onto the forms of it in the next day or something. So, anyways, let's go ahead and directly target at the switch over there. And that way, we're pretty much done with that particular second part right here. Now we need to focusing on the third and final thing, which we have to avoid a lot of those disco lights, or these disco panels, which if you touch the red ones, it'll be pretty much death for you. But I'm presuming if you step onto the yellow ones, I think you'll be safe most likely. But if you step onto the white plain ones, or the white ones I should say, that's basically you'll be safe from there. I would normally if I want to able to speed up a little bit, but unfortunately though, the actual disco lights were able to get confused of what exactly what I was doing. So as a result, yeah, I just take my death right there, so whoops. Although what we're supposed to do is the fact that, well, I'll explain more about that whenever we, well, if we don't do the actual speed up process here. So, yeah, if you somehow get hit while you're simply carrying the actual watermelon, it will explode on you too. So even then, something's worth mentioning. So, oh really? Does the actual thing reset? Okay, that seems a little bit obvious for this fact. Okay, so what we're supposed to do is the fact that we need to follow this path. And then if you do manage to follow the path, the correct path I should say, then you would able to actually get your way to towards the switch as far as you can go. But here's the thing though, we need to be extremely dead on with the actual the panels, as you can see right there, because if you fall too slow on this part, well, basically you're probably guaranteed to not only get hit, but also your watermelon will explode. So And also I'd like to discuss upon the forms of the new discussion in terms of the forms of Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC thing, but seems like for whatever reason I just forgot to able to tell you guys ever since injury new forms have been the past few days. But then again, I will point out more on that later whenever we get on to, well, to be more specifically on Wednesday, or pretty much in Wednesday, yeah. Because this is still on Monday after all, so seriously? I always kept slipping up! Ah, jeez. This will take me a lot of tries, and I do apologize with that background noise you'd be hearing, just because once again Mario has pretty much guaranteed able to do a lot of plumbing stuff, as you guys can tell. So anyways, let's make our way and activate that. Really? This is one of those annoying moments where if you think you're trying to able to activate that switch with that watermelon tossing, turns out that the actual watermelon will break so instantly. So yeah, I just want to point it out right away, and especially noticeable how some players might find that pretty annoying most of the time, but when you get the hang of it though, if you're trying to aim it directly where the finger is pointing, then you should be fine for the majority of the time.
You did it! Now I can get some sleep.
Thank you, Mermaid Man. I appreciate it for all that lot of hard work that we've done. So anyways, I'm afraid to tell you for this point, guys, we got the endings off at this point right here. So join me next time on Let's Play SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Is the fact that we're going to be hit on to the continuation point, portion of Mermaid Lair. So I'll see you guys on, as I said before, Wednesday. Later, fellas.